Hi, this is Dr. Barbara Becker Holstein. Oh, I just dropped my hard candies, but that's okay. That's what's so much fun about a podcast. You can make mistakes and we can still go on with the show. This show, presented by the Enchanted Self Productions, is also completely related to the Selfie project, which is the voice of kids, what they're really thinking and feeling, and giving them time to talk about themselves and their deepest thoughts and also solutions, because you never know, the world may be saved by someone who is currently 4 years old or 12 years old or 19. So tonight the subject is climate change. We're going to discuss a number of aspects and see 3 videos plus a tiny video from Greta, the international child star on climate change. And we'll be talking with the guests that will be introduced in a minute. And I just want to say that this subject, climate, is so pervasive that as a psychologist, I just have to mention that we all live within realms of climate. Climate in our own heads, depending on our moods and feelings. Climate in the family we live with, or the dormitory, or the apartment. It's such a broad subject, and there's so many nuances. But I am happy if we just stick with the Earth, because we all need to live on a planet. And I haven't heard that there's any other planet waiting to take us all in. So we're focusing on climate change and how we can survive. And now, as I told you last time, I'm really excited because I have a producer. Well, that means that she can take a little of the tension off of me, and I'm bad sometimes with pronouncing names. And I am going to turn this stage over to Debbie Stores Higgins, who will finish introducing our guests quickly, and then we'll start to talk and see the videos.
Yeah, hi, I'm Debbie, and I'm going to go around the room counterclockwise. So we're going to start over here with this beautiful young lady. We're so lucky to have her, and she has a video tonight. Her name is Ash Barker. She's 13 years old and has a lot of things to say about the subject, and she goes to school in Homedale. So we'll be hearing a lot from Ash. And next to her, we have Teresa Cuesta, who's been a backbone of the Selfie project from the beginning, and she's also a school librarian and a media specialist. And also her daughter we have in the show and call-in tonight on Skype, and she's Elena, and we'll be seeing Elena shortly. Of course, everybody knows Barbara, and there she is. I'll introduce Barbara again. She's a wonderful person who thinks about kids and what they think, has written wonderful books, and is now in the world of film. And her Selfie films and her little shows are all international at this level. They're winning awards all around the world, and it's a real movement. And we're branching out. And that's a plug to say if any kid is interested in being on the show or the podcast and doing a selfie, then please contact us. And I think at the end of the show, we'll have contact information. But it's a nice thing. It's fun. You get to meet people, and you get to say what's on your mind and be a star at the same time. And we're very lucky. Right here next to me, we have Dr. Jason Adolph, who's a marine scientist, and he's a professor at Monmouth University. And he's here to give us a spin on not only what's happening in the world with climate and kind of issues, but also what college kids think about it, because they can be represented too. They might not be doing selfies, but I'm sure they're the future scientists that are going to solve this stuff. And then we also have in Skype, we have Mike Orphy, who's a school psychologist, and there he is waving. And he's going to say a lot too. So after that, we'll start this discussion on climate change tonight. So everybody think in their heads at home what this subject really means. We hear about it on the news, we hear about it in politics, but really, what does it mean to you? And we care about what it means to young people. So I'm going to turn it back over to Barbara.
I think perhaps the best place to start is with a little bit of drama and we'll play the 1 minute of Greta speaking to the world. And then I think we should play Ash's video, and that gives us a perspective of a gal who's managed somehow to make it her life work, even as a kid, and also a kid right here in our own towns who has thoughts and feelings, and it'll get us started.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
It's pretty powerful.
Amazingly passionate
Yes,
young woman.
yes.
Yeah.
Amazingly passionate.
Ash, how do you feel when you see something like that as a 13-year-old? How do you feel?
Honestly, I kind of feel jealous. I wish that I could do what she's done. I mean, she's inspired so many people. There's people, like, all around the world. Like, if you don't know her name, then you're definitely gonna, like, if you see a picture of her, you're gonna be like, oh, yeah, that's the girl who knows about climate change. And the reason that she is so, I don't want to say popular, like, I guess famous about this is that she's a kid. She's like me. She is young, and then older people are like, oh my gosh, young people have opinions, you know? And it's crazy because the second a young person starts saying something, not a young person, but like someone that I guess they feel is validated, like I feel like they might see someone like me, someone who doesn't have like a giant title, saying the same things as her and say like, oh yeah, there's another one of those kids complaining about climate change, wow. But then they see her and they're like, wow, what an inspiring kid, she's doing all this. And I don't know, I just wish I was her, and I wish her the best, and I hope that she succeeds in what she tries to do, because I mean, it's awesome.
I do think that realistically, one thing we have to remember about children that focus, even a violinist, you know, who becomes at the concert level, they focus entirely in one dimension for years. And maybe that's their that's their passion, that's what they were born to do. But people like yourself, rather than, I understand jealousy, I have been jealous once or twice in my life. I think it's great to realize that you're so eclectic. You know, you're probably doing 12, 15 different things in the course of a week. And it's a different type of focus. But you being here tonight, and now we're going to see your video, you are being heard, believe me.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Hi, my name's Ashley, and today I'm going to be talking to you about climate change and why teens are terrified of it. First off, we're scared of climate change because it's probably going to be the reason we die, which is not good, and it's something that people are scared of. People are scared of death, and if it's not the reason we die, it's going to be something that generally will negatively impact our future. So that's nice. Also, people are refusing to believe in its existence, but it's not the boogeyman under the bed. It's real, and it's threatening. So it would be nice if people believed in it. I'm terrified by climate change. I've had to retake this video a lot of times because I keep on crying in the middle of it. I just don't want to die. No one wants to die.
I want to ask Jason a question. Is it that dire from what Greta says as a scientist when you really look at this?
It is in the long term. It's not like the movies that show things happening overnight, but in the long term, it is in the span of a person's lifetime, especially a young person's lifetime, like you're pointing out. And I think like when I see both those videos, what it makes me think of is the timeline of environmental change in general and climate change. So when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, and I was in college in the 80s, in the early 90s, climate change wasn't new, but it was something new to us, and we all had the feeling that we could do something. Mitigation was a big drive then. But it strikes me that your generation, Ash, and people your age were born into a huge problem. Yeah. We saw it as a huge problem that we didn't actually see how big the problem was until now, but we had a lot of hope for mitigation and changing things and turning things around, whereas your generation, you're just thrown into this big problem that you didn't cause and you have to deal with.
Yeah, and
so I think your feelings are completely valid.
It's just like, I don't know. It feels like the time that we have keeps on getting shorter. Like, back in 2010 or something like that, I was talking to my mom about this earlier because we were like, what are we going to talk about? But anyways, it feels like a while ago they were like, yeah, climate change, it's probably going to, like, start in, like, 2050. And then it became, like, recently, the thing was, like, 8 years. And then people were like, it's getting shorter because the Amazon fires. And I'm like, yeah. Didn't you think it was going to get worse? Like, that's how it's working, or how it's not working.
Yeah, at the same time, I don't want to leave you or other people your age with the impression that there's no hope or anything like that. Climate change is it's like a heavy freight train rolling slowly down a hill. You can't stop it immediately. It's going to take time to stop. Where the hope comes in is beginning the processes of mitigating and adapting to climate change, adapting to the climate change that's inevitable at this point, and mitigating the changes that are predicted under the worst case scenarios over the next 50 to 100 years.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, everywhere's going to be affected in some way, and that's kind of the scariest thing. Like, a couple weeks ago, I was looking into it, and I was like, New Jersey's a pretty good place. It's probably not going to be affected by climate change, but then I looked into it, and we're probably going to be underwater. Because, the big thing is, the carbon dioxide is going into the atmosphere and it's making the temperature higher. And then as the temperature gets higher, then the ice caps can melt. And if the ice caps melt, there's more water, there's more storms. And a bunch of places go underwater, like New Orleans. And as I recently found out, New Jersey, which isn't good. So it's like dominoes,
Is it very frightening? There seems to be a fear behind your words, and maybe you're speaking for kids in your class and in your school, that there really is a dread about what is happening and what you can do about it. Is that true in your school?
Oh, definitely. It feels like, I don't know, it just feels like sort of like a giant storm that you watch coming in, and you're like, oh, this is definitely not going to be good. This is definitely going to cause problems. But you can't stop it. You're too small. You can't just bam shazam and stop a storm from coming. And it's the same thing with us kids. We can try and convince other people to try and prevent climate change, but we can't do it ourselves because we are kids. Like Greta Thunberg said, she is supposed to be in school, but she is too busy trying to convince people climate change is here, climate change is real, we need to stop it. She's like too busy having to do that, she's too busy having to help other people realize the existence of climate change to actually have her own life.
That's right.
Like, she threw away her life because she wants to make sure that other people can have a life, like me and everyone.
But I do think that not only is your voice going to be heard indefinitely on YouTube and Vimeo and places once this goes up as a podcast show, but kids can write letters to the senators and congressmen in New Jersey, the governor who's very interested in climate change. People are very affected by getting letters from kids. It means a lot. So, I think maybe this will be the start for you of getting some kids in order to even do more, for sending things to politicians and so on. It's not, the freight train is not at a point where it can't slow down, I think.
Young political activism definitely can have an impact.
Yeah. And look what happened with the shootings in the schools, that I think finally some of the laws not only have improved, in fact, New Jersey has better laws than most states.
Like the red flag laws and all
Yeah.
that.
Could we, I'm going to come back to you many times,
Yeah.
but let's see what the school psychologist has to say now that he's heard from Ash and Greta.
Yes, the videos from Ash and Greta, first of all, were very impactful. And I agree with you, Barbara, when you're saying that your voice will be heard. It will. As a matter of fact, I do a little recruiting and stuff like that for my school district. We're a tech school. The very best events are the ones where I bring current students with me to speak. And those voices are heard, especially when they're voices of passion, when they're concerned, when they're speaking about something that's important to them. It really is louder than that of a politician or a talking head on TV or something like that. It makes a big difference. As per your request, Barbara, I did interview a handful of students.
Oh, great.
At my school, and I was really surprised, almost blown away by what they had to say and how aware of it they were, how much they really know that it is a problem. I think too many grown-ups in the world think that kids don't care about anything but their phones or Instagram or stuff like that. But they had some very deep stuff to say. If you don't mind, I'll just read you some of the
Please.
stuff that I wrote down. Well, I'll just read a bunch of sound bites here. Climate change means that my kids might not have a future. Someone said selfish indulgence. Someone said the next generations won't exist. Killing the planet, pure destruction. One eloquent young person said, climate change to me means the warming of our planet, the rising of sea levels, the burning of fossil fuels, and the ultimate destruction of our way of life. When I asked about solutions, a couple people really begged off. They just said, I don't know, recycle and stuff like that. But one person did say, we have the tools to fix it, but we don't because people don't care enough. People don't think it applies to them. At a certain point, we won't have time for any hope or space or dreams. And another solution offered was everyone needs to start taking initiative and taking responsibility. Urging others to recycle is not enough. Reposting edgy eco posts on social media is not enough. We need to each start living a life that has at the center of it the better interest of our planet.
Wow.
It's interesting to me that these people that I spoke with and the young people that are in the videos here and joining us tonight are the ones who are going to inherit that planet. And they are the ones who perhaps are a bit more passionate about it.
Yeah.
How about hearing from Elena? Elena, how do you feel about this now that Elena's up at Rider College? She's on campus right now. And, is it something that people do talk about? You see a lot of stuff. If you watch the debates, the political stuff, it always comes up. They're talking about it a lot. Do you feel personally scared about things that are going on or people you know?
I do, and my friends are still scared too. I know everyone really is, because climate change is something that's currently beginning to affect us, and it's going to keep building up and building up and building up over the years and over the generations if we just don't do something to stop it. It affects every person, every animal, every plant, every bacteria. It affects the entire planet, and we just have to do something to fix that. And I know there are lots of solutions being made, recycling, cutting down on carbon emissions, all of that stuff. And like was said before, it's important that we have to actually act on these things and not just say it on social media, oh, we have to do this. You have to actually do it and think about what you're doing and how you're impacting the situation to try and create a solution.
Is there anything going on at your college? Any conscious steps being taken? Do you know?
Nothing off the top of my head that I know specifically, but I do know that it is still something that everyone talks about. I see posters over the school. They're like, climate change is happening now, just awareness posters. Everyone is aware of this, is aware of it at this point. And I know that especially a lot of my friends and everyone is really just really thinking about their lifestyles and what they're doing to help try and make things better for the right now. I have a friend named Bailey who is actually becoming an environmentalist. I'm friends with a lot of other science majors. It's something we learn about all the time. And I think it's just really important to know to help try and, if we don't do it ourselves, make other people aware of it and to make sure that they might also have the tools to help this the problem.
Now, I think that at the college you may be doing some things, or you have done some things to actually help.
Yeah, there are things going on at Monmouth. There's we have student-run clubs, sustainability clubs that do things like, for instance, we're planning a meeting, a scientific conference for the spring, and I'm working with a student, and she and I are trying to plan the meeting with, with the awareness of sustainability. This doesn't necessarily all relate to climate change, but we're doing things like, Monmouth Catering will by default give you plastic everything. And if you pay extra, you don't have to have plastic for everything. But it's $2 extra per head. That's all it takes, which adds up over time when you have 100 people or so. But we think it's worth it, and we're going to try to sell it to a sponsor to get them to sponsor us not having to use plastic. And then there's a few weeks ago, there was a climate strike, which we on the campus thought it didn't make sense for us not to do our jobs as educators teaching about climate change and strike. So instead, one of our assistant deans, Catherine Duckett, organized in very short order a day-long teach-in on climate science. And so people volunteer their time to host teaching sessions about different aspects of climate science. So things like that do go on, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And over the years, have you worked on some projects that actually improved something?
Well, I love to say I did, but my research has more always been defining the problems caused by climate than presenting solutions.
Well, someone has to define it. And
Yeah.
That's
And
totally legit.
That comes from my my background of just where I was trained in being a scientist. So I work on something called harmful algal blooms, which are the toxic kind of blooms that fill lakes and the ocean at times, and their abundance and frequency is related to climate change.
Well, that's critical work.
Yeah.
No matter which end you come in on it.
I want to ask Jason a question. This summer at the beach, there was a lot of red algae all the time. Is that due to climate change?
I thought that. Sorry, I thought that already happened. Like, I thought that was like a bad thing, but it already happened.
Are you talking about like?
Yeah, we couldn't swim a lot. They put the flags up, and they said there was this algae in the water or something that was not healthy for you to go in. And I thought, I've never heard of that before.
In Florida?
No, it was in Allenhurst. So, yeah.
More
in Allenhurst Beach Club.
More often, Allenhurst and those areas get closed down because of bacterial pollution that comes from just sewage contamination and outflowing water. I don't recall that.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't delve into it. I just saw that they said we couldn't go in because of something. And,
I guess you have to be
day.
a beach girl or guy.
Yeah, pool day.
Yeah.
Let's go on and hear the other two gals. Their perspectives are similar and yet a little different. One of them treats climate change in a very ordinary way around the weather, and the other one, I think, has some thoughts very similar to yours. So,
the weather affects my everyday life, from little things such as the clothes that I wear to big things such as the mood of myself or the mood of people around me. For example, I pick out my clothes the day before school, so I usually have to check a weather app or something like that to know what I'm going to wear. But it's a gamble as to whether the app is actually going to be right and the weather is going to be what's on the app, or if it's going to be different. So like I could pick out a nice pair of jeans and a sweater, and the next day it could be super hot and it could be 70 degrees out. The weather not only affects my clothes, but the people around me and myself. For example, if I'm taking a test one day and I wake up and it's bright and sunny, I know I'm going to be motivated to do my best because it's nice out and I'm happy and it's a good morning. But if it's dark and gloomy, I'm definitely going to want to go back to bed because I'm not a morning person when it's very dark outside. And this could also affect the people around you, and they could be in a bad mood when it's rainy, or they could be in a happy mood when it's sunny outside. So I know I see it all around in school, or basically anywhere, but just keep an eye out for those different signs.
Is Kayla,
Yeah.
right? And I think that her video is so interesting because she is slipping into the psychological range that I was talking about climate. It's not just the devastating anxiety of, what will be here in 100 years, but it is also our moods when it's sunny out versus when it's rainy. And, we're humans and we respond to all these cues. And I'm glad she picked that topic because sometimes we just focus on the other end, which is, like, oh my God. And let's go ahead and hear.
Is it Victoria?
No, this is Lisa.
Alyssa?
Alyssa.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Prey, and today I'm going to be talking about climate change. Climate change has been happening for years now. Greta Thunberg and many others are trying to stop climate change. Greta is now coming to the U.S. to share her opinions and ideas about how we can also help. One of my favorite animals is a polar bear, but they may be extinct soon because many of us are doing nothing to help. We need to start doing something because places will have already been flooded because of climate change. We need to stop littering too because our world will look very different sooner or later if we don't stop. I believe we can make a change by picking up trash when we see it on the floor. We can also help by making more sustainable clothing. This is how we can help make a change in how to make our world a better place. Thank you for watching. Bye.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's right about the polar bears. That's what affected me when I saw the ice breaking off and the mother
they
had her
drift
baby, and oh my
Yes.
God, I'm so animals just everything.
Animals and children who speak volumes.
Yeah, I mean, really, God.
My second favorite animal is a snow fox. And I love them. I love the look of them. They're probably not going to have much of a habitat as well. It's just, I don't know. I feel like always sort of like one time recently I was at Universal in Florida, the amusement park, and it was great. And I constantly think, like, while I'm on the roller coasters, it was weird. I kept on like being like, woo, I'm enjoying myself. And then 5 minutes later I'd be like, yo, are you doing anything for climate change? To myself. And I'd be like, what? And then I just kept on thinking, like, wow, I mean, how much carbon emissions must this be causing this place? And I mean, this probably isn't good for the environment. And I kept on thinking that. And then, like, it's just crazy because it affects me outside of when I'm consciously thinking about it. Like, I might, everyone just thinks down every now and again and just thinks. And then usually I'll think about climate change, think about potential solutions, all that jazz. And then now and again, I'll just be like, that's not good for the environment or something like that. And it's strange.
I think that Elena I got the feeling that you have some thoughts and feelings. I want to bring you in.
Oh, sorry. I wake up early for an exam this morning.
Finals.
Yeah, that's right. I'll be going around doing everyday things, and I'll see, like, say I'm, like, driving with a friend, and we're driving by, and we pass, like, a factory emitting all this smoke into the air, and I think the same thing. Wow, that's not really good. Kind of brings about the question, it's like, like, is there a more environmentally sustainable way to do these things? Like, say, for example, like, the factory. all that smoke is going up into the air. What's a better way to be making what's in that factory while not having to do all these other fossil fueled mechanical processes? And that's just one of the big questions for what kind of solutions can be made for this. It's a really complicated thing, and it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of people and a lot of thinking and minds to be able to find great solutions for that.
Well, if I could take the liberty of giving a little sermon, if I were now a minister or a rabbi, this would be the moment when everybody starts to get comfortable in case they're going to snooze. I'd like to just speak for a couple minutes as a psychologist, because I believe that we're not supposed to stay in a high state of anxiety as we live our daily lives. That you could say God, or you could just say higher purpose, or just the way we're constructed. We have the capacity to go through our lives in quite a state of harmony most of the time, unless we're severely ill or something. And I think it's very important to try to appreciate the beauty of being able to have a normal day, a normal week. And one of the things that can be helpful is to just set aside 15 minutes a day to catch up on climate change, or write a senator, have time when you're going to take care of some chores. Just like working on my films, I'm not working on them all the time. I may work on them from 8 to 9 in the morning when I get up. It's not my whole world. Yeah, I'd like to have wonderful things happen as a psychologist and filmmaker, but I have to allot time to do the laundry and all sorts of other things and relate to people. So I think that's important. And so if you can have like maybe 15, 20 minutes a day that you focus on serious subjects, and then occasionally have a day workshop or go on a convention, or put 2 days aside because you're one of the chosen kids to meet with the governor, or who knows, but I think it's really healthy to allow ourselves to be at peace a good part of the time.
I don't know if this is a theme, because I do work in a high school with 9th graders as well, and hearing my daughter and this beautiful young lady here and talking to students in my school, there is a lot of concern, but there is very little to direct them into a way of activism where they feel they're making that difference. And I still have students who are really not believing that it's necessarily an issue. So I don't know if that comes from home, from media, because they're getting so much access to information, and the validity of that information can sometimes be iffy, especially if they're looking and reading things about popular culture icons, their favorite artists for whatnot, for information instead of scientific information. So there's a lack of validity for what they're seeing, and I think that there's a real lack of outlet for activism for the young people in all the communities, even in the colleges, for a lot of the part, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I thought your point.
Yeah, well, very well said, what you just said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Those points very, very well taken.
Okay. Things going on.
So Ash, you said that you're in 8th grade and you're going to a high school next year?
Yeah, next year I'm just going home to high school, but I'm just like 10 feet over from his house. But
Maybe they'll have some groups there
I
that would be available to you.
I don't know if they do, honestly, because I have a sister in high school. She's never mentioned any groups, and she cares about climate change as much as I do. She just wasn't able to be here today. Yeah. Honestly, it's strange. I'll go to school, and I'm concerned about climate change. Other people are concerned about climate change. And then there's other people who just are, like, hushing it up, like, actively trying not to talk about it. Like, there's this one girl. She is, like, I admire her a lot. She admires Greta Thunberg. She, like, hangs things up on her locker that are anti-climate change. And then there's some kids who just rip it off for fun. Or, like, when there was, you were talking about the climate strike, right? She had put signs up all around the school, like, go to this website, fight against climate change, fight for, better conditions or anything. And people just, I would watch people actively look up at those and just grab them and take them down. And not, staff with authority to do that. Just kids. Rude kids. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because it's not anything it's just, why would they do that? It's not promoting something that they actively dislike. It was just them, I don't know. It was strange. And then, there's teachers also. A lot of the teachers in my school, you can bring up anything about climate change, and it's incredible. They just change the subject, right away. They're anyway, they don't want to talk about it.
And Ash and I were talking about this right before the program aired, about textbooks and the scientific books that the kids are using in schools, and in my school as well. It's not a big part of any curriculum, and since there's so much political agita associated with it, teachers generally don't talk about it amongst themselves, and definitely not in front of students. And so that definitely affects the school climate too, especially for the kids.
That's right. Mike, are you back on?
I am back on. I wanted to mention something as well. Speaking of educators and climate change and that sort of thing, our school, I'm proud to say, we do have a green curriculum embedded in a lot of our different classes. For example, the electrical, the HVAC program, the electrical program, the building maintenance trades program, all have. It's more than just a unit. It's throughout the year they do different green curriculum activities for the students. We have also created a relationship with Princeton Plasma Physics Lab, where they are seeking out alternative energy sources, and they hire a lot of our students directly into their internship and apprenticeship program, where they're off building alternative energy sources and stuff. So it's pretty neat. The grown-ups do care too.
Well, I'm wondering, Ash, whether you and maybe other friends, if you bring a little group together, why don't you arrange a meeting with the superintendent of schools and discuss some of this? Because he or she may be quite open to making a more open capacity, the kids to feel more open and the teachers to feel more open, that this is so legitimate. This isn't really highly political, unless, I guess, okay.
Usually,
I feel like anything is highly political to make it so.
The thing is, there's one teacher, that I've ever had that actually allows us to talk about politics. He encourages it, which is strange almost, because why are you encouraging it? It's it feels unnatural. But when we talk about climate change in there's always that one kid that's climate change isn't real, or something like that, or it's a scam from China. And so it always, while it might not start off as politics, they might just be what are your opinions on climate change and nothing else, definitely not politics, there's always going to be one kid or one person or whatever that's going to say, well, yeah, but such and such a person said, and such a person said, and they're from opposite parties, so what am I supposed to believe, or something like that. People always tend to bring in politics, even though it's not necessary.
Right.
But putting the political stuff aside, Ash, if as Dr. Holstein suggested, if you and a couple of friends went to some sort of a board meeting or a principal or a superintendent, and actually asked for some time to have your voices heard, and mention that this was something that you care about, that you guys are passionate about, it doesn't necessarily have to be a political thing. You can turn it into, we'd like to do something as a school, as a group, as young people, whether it's within the school's curriculum or whether it's just something that you want to organize together. But hearing that from you guys would mean a lot.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, and I'd like to have you come back in a couple of months and talk. Because it'll be great to see, and maybe your sister will come that night too.
Maybe.
And I just want.
We're giving you more homework now.
Yes.
I just want to point out that somebody said, who should I listen to? This person saying that, this person saying that. Listen to the scientists, the people that study these things. There's really no controversy among the scientists as far as the the reality of climate change and what's happening.
Yeah, there's no real scientists that are going to say, oh yeah, climate change is just a scam. Like, no real scientist is going to say that. There's hard evidence.
Right, and
against
it's a scientific topic, so we should listen to the scientists about that. Like we
Yeah.
listen to the doctors, the medical doctors about our health.
That's like listening to a scientist about a political problem, and not a political scientist, just a regular scientist about a political problem. It's like going...
Science has the facts. Listen to science, people.
Yeah,
Right.
sure, exactly.
It's real.
Right.
I promise. We promise.
And like you said, they were thinking it's not real net, and I think part of my job is actually to bring kids to find out what are valid resources when they're doing their research. And kids, younger children, even high school students, they really don't know how to find good information, valid information on the internet to guide them. That could be, a great place to start as well, is having an online presence for levels that teenagers and interests of theirs would draw them to. That could even be a great high school project.
That would be cool. I mean, there's so many sources that are just clearly tainted. Like, Wikipedia. One time I was like, we were doing a project, and this kid, I watched him as he actively made a false Wikipedia page and then said, oh yeah, Google this, there's a Wikipedia page on it, just to make his friend get a bad grade. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Nice friend.
Social media does more harm than it does good.
You guys,
Sometimes,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I am at the school, and this event that I was speaking at is ending, and I'm being kicked out.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike, you were
I
great.
appreciate all of
Nice
you.
to
so
meet you.
young
We
people.
appreciate your input.
Thank you for having me.
Bye
All
bye.
right, Mike.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And Jason, the thing that you were talking about, the bloom in the water, or that you study, it's gotten more serious since the climate's changed and time has gone on.
Yeah, there are a number of studies that show in different parts of the world and different types of harmful algal blooms that climate change is one of the factors that's making them occur more frequently and in higher magnitude from a number of different perspectives.
Now, does this hurt the marine life as well in there?
Yeah,
the fish
so
and everything?
those blooms so this is an example of a normal part of nature, these blooms and fish kills. Those happen in different environments, but as conditions change from two things really. One is nutrient pollution, and the other is climate change. They happen more frequently and more, they last longer, they're bigger in magnitude. And down in Florida gets some of the worst of it, where their blooms last for year to year. They just keep going.
Oh, wow.
And they cause fish kills.
The recent one, that one was really bad, because doesn't it, as far as I know on the topic, because I had to do a current event on it, and that was back when current events weren't nice. But anyways, don't they, I feel like I'm saying something wrong, but, don't they, drain oxygen, from the air? Don't they just take it from the water and stuff, and that's why it causes all of those fish and everything to die?
No, you're saying something correct. One of the negative effects on marine life is when you get a bloom like this, it gets degraded in the water and it consumes all the oxygen in the water. And then the fish and the animals and the bacteria, the invertebrates, they all need oxygen in the water, so they die, and it forms what we call a dead zone in the ocean.
And are those
Creates a great imbalance in ecosystems.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you learn about any of that in your science courses that you've taken so far, even though you've only been there a semester?
We haven't gotten quite to stuff that level yet, 'cause we're still just doing the general bio, but we were actually doing evolution. They're like, why is learning about evolution important for humans? So humans cause a lot of problems, like climate change, and climate change just causes so many problems for us too. For example, dengue fever is spread by, I'm pretty sure it was said, mosquitoes. And mosquitoes are spreading to wider and wider areas because they live in the warm areas, and as the earth is warming up, the mosquitoes spread, dengue fever spreads. Same thing with pests and crops. The weather gets drier and warmer, the crops don't thrive, the pests come in, they start killing the crops. So we learn quite a bit about it. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Definitely.
So, I think one of the fascinating things about this show tonight, this podcast, and Debbie, you haven't been here with me all the time, but done at least 12. This is one night I could have not been here because the energy to discuss the show the topic is so high in everybody that there really isn't even a need to organize subjects and so on.
Right.
I think this is the highest level of concern in all the shows that we've done so far, and particularly the hidden factor, not so hidden, but day to day maybe hidden, of the anxiety level that kids are living at.
I think what Ash said was so true. It was funny. I was watching a movie that was in the 1960s, like a Turner Underground, and people used to drive along, and I remember throwing stuff right out the window of the car when you didn't want it. You threw a soda can out, you threw whatever, and people themselves on a small level have really done a lot to change things. And especially millennials, I think they really do care about sustainability. But how does a person like Ash, that age, think, what can we do when you've got giant corporations doing other things? Like, what can one person do when there's the big entity out there?
I think that's all, we've always dealt with things like that. I remember years ago the tobacco companies and the ads on TV constravconstantly.
Yeah.
And finally that stopped.
And what can we do about India and China? If the U.S. cleans their stuff up, those countries are not conforming.
Right.
And again, the political aspect comes right back in the financial aspect, like Greta was talking about.
But still, all we can do in terms of mental health and sanity is to take our share. I'm looking at the sign, shared universe. Take our share of the universe, which is just one tiny aspect of millions and millions of people alive at this moment, and do what we can. And that's all we can do. We're not supposed to become total wrecks over what we can't handle, because then we're non-functional, and that's not the purpose of being alive. So I do think that we have to just keep pulling back. What can I do? Writing to people who are in politics, going to conferences, reading a book, sitting down with principals and asking, we want a project. We're not satisfied. Hey, this is Homedale. It's a school system of great merit. We want to activate something that makes us feel that we are being listened to about climate change.
And may I add on a very, very positive note? I just wanted to share, I was just reading an article in the Washington Post, and it's titled, "Teen Girls Are Leading the Climate Strikes and Helping Change the Face of Environmentalism." And I find it very interesting that tonight we have had all young ladies call in, be here on the videos. And I find that's fascinating. And I wonder if there is a gender difference even. We have so many wonderful women on this show coming in to talk about it. And this article has just struck me as interesting.
Well, let's just make a pitch for getting some guys on. Any guys listening, when you're welcome to come back. I'm so glad you could be here. It was
really enjoying this.
Yes. It's wonderful to have your expertise, and you're a real scientist. I think it's been years since I met a real scientist. That's great.
A real life scientist.
Yeah. So guys, get in touch. It's very easy to find me. My Gmail is very easy. It's just Barbara.Holstein. Holstein like the cow, just in case, not Goldstein. Holstein. Barbara.Holstein@gmail. And let's get some kids of both guys and gals for the next time we do this, which won't be in the Christmas holidays because no one can focus, but sometime toward the end of January. And let's either continue. We might just continue this subject the next podcast.
Yeah, we're particularly looking for tweens between 13 and probably 18 years old, because Barbara's books deal with younger people and the effects of things that happen to them. And we really want to get your voice heard.
And a little pitch, because people are looking for Christmas presents and Hanukkah presents. The Truth is the first book, and the girl is 11, 12-ish, and the second book is Secrets, and she's 12, 13, and it has tons of issues. I can't promise a lot on climate change, but there sure is a lot on dealing with parents, siblings, first crush, friends, social media, bullies, all sorts of other projects, things that people have to deal with as you come of age.
Well, Barbara, I think there's a next book to be written about.
Yes.
That's one of the things I'm learning
Yes.
tonight is how much of an anxiety impact the issue of climate change that I've always approached as a scientist, but it's really had a huge impact as a source of anxiety on
Yeah.
people like
'Cause
Ash and the other videos we
Sure,
saw.
if you think you're on this wonderful ride, in Florida, going on a some sort of ride, and your mind is turning to how much fuel is being burned, it's a big problem.
Definitely.
And what you said, Dr. Holstein, was just so true, and these young children need to hear that. They can't not live and enjoy their lives. You said it so wonderfully, so that guilt, they can remove that from
Yes.
part of their young life.
I think so. You must, because whether you look at it religiously or psychologically, you come down to the same thing. We function best as human beings when we allow ourselves to have pleasure and joy on a daily basis and not get too freaked out. So our time is just about out for tonight. And I want to thank everybody. This was a marvelous show, I thought.
Thank you.
And
It was great to
thanks.
meet everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's great seeing everybody, and we have our first kind of resident scientist, which is a wonderful
Yes.
thing, to get
That's great.
the voice of knowledge to
Yeah.
cut through everything
Yeah.
else that we do, right? It's
And,
wonderful.
I
Thank
should
you so
mention
much,
that
Jason.
Elena has been one of the stars in my
Oh, yeah,
Selfie
she's a star.
movies. And I'm so glad she could join us too.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to
Good to see
say
you.
bye for now.
Bye, Elena.
All
Bye,
right.
Elena.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye, hon.
See